Welcome to the International Elephant Foundation's Conservation Chat. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here today and from all corners of the globe so we can talk about elephant conservation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Julie Bates. I'm the Donor Relations Manager at IEF. We also have some other IEF staff members on the line. Deborah Olson, our Executive Director, is here with us. Sarah Conley, who is our Assistant Conservation Director, and also Dr. Chase Ledoux, our Special Projects Manager, is on the line as well. And I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah here in a few minutes to introduce our speaker who's on the line. But before we do that, I wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping notes to ensure we have a smooth and engaging session for everybody. Please remember to have your microphones on mute throughout, just so we can make sure that everybody can hear the speaker. We also ask that once the presentation starts for everyone to keep their cameras off to help us save bandwidth. And also, just so you know, we will be recording this session because there are a lot of people who like to watch the chats that can't make them to the live versions. And we're also aiming for this chat to last for about an hour. So there should be plenty of time for questions afterwards, but as you think of questions, go ahead and put them in the chat throughout the session, and then we'll get to those towards the end. And then without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, and take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you all for being here. We are so excited for today's speaker. We have Luc Mathot. He is the director and founder of Conservation Justice. He has had a lifelong dedication to wildlife, working first as a forest engineer and in forest management in Cameroon and Gabon, then for the Aspinall Foundation for project protection of gorillas in Congo, and eventually started his own NGO in Gabon in 2010. From 2010 to 2024, Conservation Justice has put in jail more than 600 wildlife smugglers and initiated similar projects in Benin, Togo, Madagascar, and Burkina Faso. Luc also developed a project that fights illegal logging in Gabon, resulting in the arrest of more than 300 illegal loggers, including important Chinese loggers. This is a special example of such a collaboration between an NGO and a government. One of these things that we like to hold up as a model for effective conservation. And of course, IEF has also funded his work. So we are very happy to have him here. Welcome, Luc. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sarah. Thanks a lot for the introduction and the invitation. So indeed, I'm Luc Mathot. I'm the founder of Conservation Justice. I will share with you a presentation of our work. So I do it now.
Absolutely.
And I will present you our work in Gabon, but also before in Congo, before I started Conservation Justice. So in Gabon, we have 3 projects managed by Conservation Justice, indeed. The ALF project, which work on wildlife law enforcement. It's really the main project I will present today. We have a project on illegal logging, and we also develop wildlife conservation brigades with authorities. So just a small history about Conservation Justice and myself. So I started to work in 2003 for an NGO called Nature Plus on forest management and wildlife surveys. But I really wanted to have a bigger impact, to make a change, not only with technical assistance and research, but with real wildlife conservation. So I started to work with the Aspinall Foundation in Congo. I co-manage a protected area with authorities, and it's a very unique protected area because it's a sanctuary also for orphan gorillas, rescued for poaching actually. And then we reintroduced the gorillas in this natural reserve. And I quickly realized that the trafficking of wildlife in Central Africa and in Congo especially was still widespread. It was still very important. I remember very well in the middle of Brazzaville, very openly, someone selling a chimpanzee in front of a famous restaurant with many expatriates, with people working for wildlife conservation, actually. And so I started the investigation, and the trafficker was arrested, but he was released quite fast. So that's how I decided really to develop a law enforcement project following the model of another NGO called the Last Great Ape. And that's how I really started to work on law enforcement. So I replicate this model of the LAGA NGO in Congo for the apes trafficking, but then for ivory also. And then I created my own NGO, Conservation Justice, to replicate the same model, but in Gabon, actually, where I first worked with Nature Plus. And so it started in 2010. I arrived in Gabon, and we started this project. Authorities were very open to work with us, despite we were not very known yet. And then I replicate the same model in other countries, indeed, in Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Madagascar also. But I'm very happy to focus more on Gabon, because it's a unique country with almost 100,000 elephants, only 2 million people, 88% of forests. So it's a very, very wild country, maybe the wildest in the world, the last Eden maybe. And so we really focus on this project. So as I say, I started to make wildlife surveys in the field and to work on reintroduction of gorillas, management of protected area. But since 2010, I work on ivory against ivory trafficking, especially in Gabon. So the most important, I think, is to take a step back a little and to really understand why we do something, what we do, and how we do it. So the why is, that little voice that tells us what is good or not, what direction seem right, actually. And often we forget this why with the obligation, responsibilities, the life, actually. But I think it's important to keep a good motivation. And so that's why I will insist on during this presentation about the reason to make this kind of activities or other activities you would like to do that seem important for you. And so the why is really what motivated the creation of conservation justice. The what is the activities we develop, and the how it's the procedures, the methods we use to do it. So the presentation will be based on these three aspects. So as I told, there was a lot of wildlife trafficking in Central Africa, but I guess in other parts of the country also. There are CITES, there are a lot of work plans, workshops, international agreements, declaration, but in the cities, honestly, the trafficking of wildlife was very active, very present, actually. And so we decided to develop a new approach, working almost with like a police unit in a way. And so our activism, my activism and conservation justice were born from this observation, from this issue to resolve. So you can see here a picture of ivory in Kinshasa. It was sold openly like this. So it was illegal, of course, but it was just sold like in other places, like in Libreville in Central Africa still, but in West Africa also. So then the what, it's the model we decided to develop. We decided to follow the LAGA model to enforce the wildlife law with investigative technique, similar to police work, as I told, and it's transcending traditional wildlife conservation approaches. And to do it, we need a strong activism. So the how, it's the procedures we use, the detailed model. So we have four departments in the Eagle and LAGA model. So we work on investigations, arrest, operations, legal support, and the communication. But in conservation justice, we have added two other departments, the environmental education and the work with communities that are also very important and complementary and useful for what we do also. So the investigation is the beginning of everything. So we use undercover investigators who are trained by us, and they penetrate, they identify the wildlife trafficking networks. We also use informants, and then we, with the police officers, with the wildlife officers, we organize arrest. So it's mixed team, and we fight against corruption attempts. We inform the prosecutor in case there is an issue. We collaborate very directly with all authorities on operations. We have a legal team that supports police and wildlife officers from the arrest to the tribunal, to the jail term, and we also do jail visit actually. So we train wildlife officers during specific training, but also during operation, it's a real-time training actually. So we have a very strong cooperation with the Ministry of Justice, with prosecutors also, to also identify and block any possible corruption. So the communication is very important. The communication with authorities, of course, with the prosecutor, with the ministries, any useful partners actually, included embassies. But we communicate also a lot with media. So each time there is an arrest, we inform the media. It is published in the news, in television, radio, newspaper. And it's very important. Every year we have about 300 or more than 300 articles on our work. This picture, it is the main newspaper in Gabon, and it was at first page actually, and it was our first operation. So some results very quickly. The most important, I think. So it started in 2010, as I told, and this case was an easy case in a way. The investigation was quite easy because ivory was sold quite openly at in the artisanal market, and so yeah, we organized the arrest. It was the most difficult part was the logistic because 13 people were arrested, and it was the first one, so we needed to organize things very well. 105 kg of carved ivory have been seized, and 13 people have been sent to jail. So it was a first in Gabon, just 1 month, almost 2 months, 1 month and a half after our arrival. We had this case, and just the first prosecution and sentence of wildlife traffickers in Gabon. In 2003, so we were working in almost all the parts of Gabon already, and we had this very important case and it was the first time a government official was arrested, and despite his connections, he was also sent to jail for 1 year. So it was also a first in Gabon. And also this case was very important because this ivory was supposed to be sent to Togo in West Africa. And so we followed the investigation, and we made an investigation in a small port in Libreville, and we were able to organize the arrest of 3 wildlife traffickers with 176 kg of ivory. The boat was seized also, but it confirmed the importance of Togo because this boat was supposed to bring the ivory to Togo. And so I went to Togo with a colleague from Eagle, and we continued investigations there. It was also quite easy because, again, the ivory was sold openly in Lomé, the capital of Togo. And you see on the picture on the left, the trafficker, his name is Bouquet. He was just selling openly in Lomé ivory, and he had 700 kg of ivory in his shop. So it was very, very shocking for me, but he was arrested finally, thanks to our work. And there was a big turning point in Togo. Authorities started to consider ivory trafficking as a real issue, and the law enforcement started to increase really. And a few months later, you have the other picture, another person was arrested with just 500 grams, not kg, but grams, and he was sent to jail despite he was a Chinese director of a restaurant, he was well connected. So we see that authorities in Togo really changed the way they consider ivory trafficking. And just to tell you that Togo, yes, I forgot to say that Togo was a real transit hub for ivory. Just in 1 year, there was more than 12 tons seized in Lomé or in other countries, but coming from Lomé. There was almost no more elephants in Togo, but it represents more than 1,000 elephants, and it is only what has been seized. So you can imagine the number of elephants killed, and because of the traffickers from Lomé. So the ivory, as I said, didn't come from Lomé, where there was almost no more elephants, but the DNA analysis confirmed it was coming from Gabon mainly, and also from Congo. So different seizures in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, showed the real origin of ivory was Central Africa. So we continue to work with Togolese authorities, and thanks to one of our informants, they have been able to arrest 3 wildlife traffickers, including a Vietnamese person, with almost 4 tons of ivory. Again, the origin was Gabon and Congo. And it was very interesting because the Togolese authorities were finally very proud to say that they do big seizure, they do the job. And so they ask other countries to do the same. And knowing Togo was probably the worst country in terms of elephant protection, finally they became in a way a model, because the authorities really changed the way they consider things. So another important case, because it's also a first in Gabon this time. It's a recent case, less than 2 years ago. We organized the arrest of 9 people with 132 kg, and this arrest is connected with another case from 2020 in Cameroon, when a trafficker was arrested with more than 600 kg of ivory, and we were able to arrest his accomplices in Gabon. We have seen a very sophisticated method with a compartment, hidden compartment in a pickup truck. It was very difficult to find the ivory in this car. We knew there was ivory inside, but the police, they didn't find. They said there was nothing. The guy can leave, but my team decided to check again and again, and finally with tools we were able to find this hidden compartment, and there was yes, 132 kg. And it was interesting because the same kingpin was denunciated, and so we worked with Interpol to try to organize this arrest in Cameroon. It was not the case, unfortunately, but he was arrested again in Nigeria with 200 kg of ivory. He was unfortunately released again by customs, and then he was arrested again in Cameroon with fake documents, and he escaped. So we were quite upset, and we made some noise on this case. And finally, for the first time in West and Central Africa, a red notice was issued, produced by Interpol against this wildlife trafficker. So it means all the police in the world are supposed to catch him, by example, if he cross a border, or so we hopefully will not be able to make his trafficking activities for a long time. We really hope he will be arrested soon. But it's the first time that there was the red notice for wildlife trafficker, ivory trafficker in that case, in Central and West Africa. So just about our results in Gabon. So we organized the arrest of more than 600 wildlife traffickers, indeed, during 285 sting operations. So the good thing in Gabon is that most of the traffickers, 80% of them in our case, are sent to jail. So the average jail term was quite low, 5 months till 2019, because the maximum in the law was 6 months. In 2020, it changed, and the maximum sentence is finally 10 years. And so we see the average jail term increasing till 11 months now. And most of the case, 90% of the case we initiate concern ivory traffickers. But we also work on other species, of course, like leopard skins, by example, that are also trafficked in Gabon. So we, thanks to our work, authorities seized 111 leopard skins and a total of 4 tons of ivory. Since 2010, more than 3,000 press articles have been produced on our work, and it's also a way to inform the public, to have a deterrent impact, I think, and also for authorities, it's good to show the results. So sorry. We also, since 2018, we also developed wildlife brigades. So we are developing 3 wildlife brigades with similar activities. But as I told at the beginning, we have also 2 other components: the work with communities, awareness, but we also support them on the right against illegal loggers, for example. And we also have environmental education activities in schools and also for adults in logging companies. So that's the new kind of activities we also develop, and it's important for political aspect also, but to show that we are not, we don't focus only on the arrest of people. It's not funny for us, but someone has to do it. But we also want to have a longer term approach to work with the kids, for the new generation, actually. So my conclusion, yes, as you see, in 2010, we started the work in Gabon. We were not known at all. We had no funding. But 14 years after, we see good results with more than 600 wildlife traffickers arrested. Other projects also that we developed. We support projects in other countries also, with also hundreds of traffickers arrested. And this is done only by 20 people, 20 Gabonese people, investigators, lawyers, anthropologists, managers, accountants also. And we work in all Gabon. So the most important for me, it's again to take a step back and to think about what we do and why we do it, how we do it, and to remember that little voice from our young age, often telling us the good direction we should take. I'm a very normal and simple person, but I think I have a good motivation, a good endurance maybe. And I keep that little voice, because since I'm young, I wanted to save, to protect wildlife, to work on wildlife conservation. And I would like you to maybe to take a step back and to think also about what you could do, what cause you could support. It can be many things. Yeah, it would make my day. It's most important, I think, for this presentation. So thanks a lot again to IEF and all our donors, and I'm very happy to respond any question, and you have also my email address if needed, so don't hesitate. Thanks a lot.
Wow, that was great. Thank you. I'm already getting questions sent to me, but also I just wanted to let you know that the first comment was, I'm in awe of the success of this organization, immense admiration and gratitude. So well done. Your message is coming through loud and clear. So lots of really interesting questions about security and the justice aspects. So why don't we start with, how do you determine where these tusks and the ivory came from? Are you guys doing DNA analysis? And can you talk more about that?
Mm. Yes, sure. We don't really do DNA analysis. It's quite rare. It's done only for big seizure. Usually it's more than 500 kg, and it's done by the University of Washington, the Professor Wasser. But usually it's more our investigation. So in all the case we initiate and we follow, people are arrested red-handed. So we our investigator play as buyer usually, and the traffickers, they move in a restaurant, in a place, in a hotel with ivory, and at the same time, of course, we organize everything with forces of order, and the people are arrested red-handed. So they can explain also that the traffickers can explain. Often they lie, of course, but we know the ivory doesn't come from far because Gabon is the origin country. So all the tusks seized in Gabon, they come from Gabon. It would be it would not make sense for a trafficker to bring ivory from Cameroon to Gabon. It's the opposite. It comes from Gabon, it goes to Cameroon, to Nigeria, to Togo. So in West Africa, of course, it's more difficult to know where the ivory comes from. The traffickers can say that they have this for years, they didn't know it was forbidden. So in that case, it's more difficult to know where it comes from, except indeed if we have good information from the investigation or DNA analysis. But DNA analysis, it's really for big seizure, and then it's interesting. But in Gabon, we don't really have this problem because we know it comes from Gabon. As I said, there are almost 100,000 elephants, so forest elephants. So it's really the biggest forest elephant population in the world, and the price of ivory is lower in Gabon because it's the origin. So the traffickers, they come in Gabon to buy ivory, and not the opposite, actually.
That makes perfect sense. We've heard recently that a lot of poachers have been moving from the Congo and Cameroon into Gabon uh, because the elephant populations in those places have declined. Have you found this to be true?
Yeah, exactly. I see the people are well informed, but Cameroon is a big concern because there are almost no more elephants, indeed, in Cameroon, and it's a big country with a lot of trafficking. So a lot of traffickers come from Cameroon, and they buy ivory from Gabon, but also from Congo, from CRA. And so, but it's not new. It's maybe 20, 30 years or more that the traffickers, they come from Cameroon. Gabon, it's a small population, less than 2 million people. They are not much in business. The Cameroonians, they are 25 million, I think. They do a lot of business trafficking. It doesn't mean they come themselves to Gabon, but they have contact accomplices in Gabon who take ivory from everywhere in Gabon with the kind of pickup I have showed you. They bring this with hidden compartments. I mean, they bring the ivory to the border, and then someone else take it in Cameroon. And also the corruption in Cameroon is higher. The people arrested, they often don't go to jail, or especially the big traffickers. The one I was talking about, he was arrested with 600 kg. He was only 3 months in jail in Cameroon. He was released, he continued trafficking, he was arrested again, he escaped. Nigeria, he was arrested, he was just released by the custom despite just 200 kg. In Gabon, if you are arrested with ivory, with especially big quantities, you will go to jail. Or I've never seen a big trafficker who has been really released with our methods. I mean, because we pay lawyer, we follow the case. Yeah, so Cameroon is a big problem. Congo, it's a little different because it's a country where there is still a lot of elephants. So there are not many traffickers from Congo. The ivory from Gabon, it goes more directly to Cameroon. It doesn't go to Congo. It can happen, but it would be very rare and really along the border. The trafficking, it goes mainly from Cameroon, to Cameroon, from Congo to Cameroon, from Gabon to Cameroon, but not much from Gabon to Congo.
Interesting. Okay. What are the typical punishments for these convicted poachers? And are the judges giving harsh enough punishments?
But the average is 11 months now in Gabon. Some people will say it's not enough. Some people will say it's too much. But it's quite a lot compared to other countries. I was part of the Eagle Network. I'm one of the founder of Eagle Network, actually. And if we compare with Cameroon, with Congo, with Benin, with Togo, with Guinea, with Senegal, with Uganda, with Madagascar, the prosecution rate to jail actually is very high in Gabon compared to other countries. In Gabon, it's more than 80%. In other countries, it's 50, 60, 40%. And also the jail term it's often a few months. When in Gabon, sometimes it's 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 6 months, 1 year. But so I think in Gabon, the judge usually the judges give good deterrent decisions. But we see for the last 2-3 years, maybe we see it's decreasing. There was a big issue I didn't mention during my presentation. It's the human-elephant conflict in Gabon. There are many elephants. They go in the field crops. There is damages. And so now there was a big concern about this. And it will probably increase because it's connected with the climate change and the production of fruits in forest. And so some judges, or traffickers, they use this as a pretext to give small sentences, actually. But with our lawyer, with the media, we tried really to make a difference between the traffickers and the small poachers. So we really focus on the traffickers, in the people who live in cities and not the villagers. So let's see in the future. We hope that the judges will still give good decisions.
Absolutely. We hope that too. And that actually brings up a good segue into the next question. So how does the community and the population view elephants, and do they tend to turn in the poachers or do they protect the poachers?
Yeah, it's very connected to the previous question and response indeed. Yeah, the communities, the villagers, they don't really see the use to protect elephants because there is not really tourism in Gabon. It's very, very limited. And also elephants are everywhere. They are not only in national parks. There are more elephants out of national parks than in national parks, actually. And yeah, so the communities, they see elephants as animals destroying the field crops. Just a few days ago, a villager was killed by an elephant. So it always creates a lot of frustration. So we work now on human-elephant conflict. There was an NGO called Space for Giants. They support the electrical fences, the installation of electrical fences to protect the field crops. And so I think it can decrease the pressure on field crops and then on elephants also. So we try to explain and to sensitize the communities since young age about the use of elephants in the forest, about the carbon, about they are the gardeners of the forest. Many trees would not exist without elephants. So they have also a very important role. So we try to explain this, but it's clear that we also have to protect humans and not only elephants. And that's why we try really to make a difference between the poachers and the traffickers, and also the villagers. In Gabon, if you kill an elephant in your field crops, because it was in your field crops or because it became dangerous, it's legal. You will not go to jail, but you have to inform the wildlife officers, of course. If you take the ivory or the meat and you try to sell, then you become it becomes an illegal activity. So we really try to explain communities, okay, you have to respect the law. If an elephant come in your field crops, first you call wildlife officer, you call us. we are not really keen to tell this, but of course, sometimes we have to tell them, if you kill the elephants, you have to inform directly. If not, you might go to jail. So we have more cases like this with people, villagers killing elephants, but then they inform just the wildlife officer and they don't go to jail. So it's not poaching. And in Gabon, it's quite a big country, and with only 2 million people. So I think there was enough space for elephants, but elephants who come close to the village, I hope they will understand progressively that they have to keep distance from the village, because the problem uh, the problem also is that the poachers, they go deep in the forest, and so it creates a lot of issues for elephants. They don't know where they are safe. So our role is really to keep elephants safe in the forest, and that they don't come near the villages.
Absolutely. That we have to keep the habitats safe so they don't come toward human settlements. So someone's asking about the specific stuff that is taught and discussed during the school education presentations.
Sorry?
During the community outreach, the school education presentations, what kind of stuff do you guys discuss?
But of course, we explain it's for kids. So we play, there was games with them, songs, by example, and we try to explain to tell them the list of protected species, by example. So there are games about this, about the name of species. We have picture about the species that cannot be hunted, elephants, gorillas, chimpanzees, and also they try to recognize animals and to know that this animal we cannot kill it. This one it's legal. And so that's an example. Then we explain the importance, of course, of wildlife, of elephants for the forest. Yeah, that's the kind of thing we do, and we do it in schools. It's a little new program for us. So we have also small books, with a story about kids who like gorillas, who try to protect gorillas, and unfortunately his uncle kill a gorilla, and then it creates some issue. But we try to have also more educational materials, because it's this book we produce. I think we printed probably 40 or 50,000 already, but maybe we will. It's focused on gorillas, so we will probably try to make something on elephants. But anyway, it's useful because the kids are very enthusiastic, because in that kind of school in the villages, they don't have much external people coming to make a discussion about anything. So they are really happy to hear new people speaking about animals in the forest. And as each time I see educational activities, awareness activities in schools, I'm very impressed by the way the kids, they are very interested, probably more than in Europe or in US, because it's they don't have a lot of activities like this, actually.
Interesting. Okay. So let's talk about the collaboration with the government that you mentioned. Someone's asking what kind of support you got from the previous Gabonese government, and if you expect that kind of support from the new government, and if any sort of unrest or turmoil increases poaching and things like that.
But I started a similar project in different countries, and I think in Gabon it was, the authorities were quite open. But I think you have to be very respectful to authorities and transparent, and to keep good relationship on long term. So I think we have a good reputation in Gabon, with the previous government, with the new one also. The minister is really supporting our work. So the new minister, the new government. It was in the past there were several ministers, sorry, The last since 2010, it changed almost every year. Some were more supportive, some less, but globally we had a good support. And with the new government, it's also the case. Of course, the human-elephant conflict is an issue. So, and it was the case for the previous government also. They explained that, okay, we are happy with elephants, we want to protect them, but imagine the ministers, they have to go in villages almost every month because there was dead people, field crops issue, there was elections, so the people, they say, do you want to protect humans or elephants? So it's a very complex situation, and that's why developing tourism, it would be useful, I think, in Gabon, so that people see the use of elephants. Of course, there was a conservation NGO, there was donors who fund the protection of the parks, of elephants and all, but it has a price also for Gabon for the development of the country. It's not so simple. But about the poaching, I would say that it's when I started in Gabon in 2010, the trafficking was very, very high. Really, it was industrial. In 2017-18, it started to decrease. I think the price of ivory decreased in Asia, in China. The law changed also in China, so it was forbidden to sell any ivory finally. And so it started to decrease. Also, we dismantled, honestly, with authorities, a lot of networks, the biggest networks. And the one I have showed in 2023 was the last big network. So now we still see poaching, maybe around the village, maybe more. But we see the traffickers, they are less first, and they complain about the price. They say there was not the poachers, they sometimes they have ivory, but they don't find traffickers anymore. They say the price is very low, they don't want to buy, so in a way, on political aspect, it's complex, but we see globally the price of ivory is decreasing. The poaching, because of human-elephant conflicts, it's increasing. But globally, I think the elephant population is quite stable now. And we will see in the next years, of course, we have to be very, very careful. With the new government, many poachers and traffickers, they told our informers and investigators that it will be more easy now. We will do more trafficking, we will restart trafficking and all, but the price was not there. And we got authorities and forces of order arrested many traffickers. And so then they understood that the law didn't change and there was still law enforcement. So let's see in the future, but till now, finally, things didn't change that much, I think. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about informants. So you use them to help catch traffickers and wildlife criminals. Are they paid informants? And how do you verify the information so that so you know that they're not just telling you things to get paid?
Yeah, it's a problem with the informants, and that's why we use more investigators. So there are people working for us as employee or consultant, but permanently actually. So we train them. They have to communicate permanently with us, just on WhatsApp group or whatever, where they are, what they do. They have clear mission, clear objectives. So they are professionals. I mean, the informers, it can be very useful, but it's also very dangerous because they can tell you fake stories. They can be traffickers. They can inform traffickers. So honestly, we have some informers working with our investigators, but we are very careful with them. So I really prefer to have professional investigator working for us, and who can be professional than informers who can make mistake or who can lie. So it's a very good question, but yeah, we have to be careful, and that's why we don't use informants a lot. Actually, we use more our own investigators. Yeah.
Smart. But that has to be kind of dangerous. What kind of things do you do to make sure that your team stays safe doing these risky things?
Yeah, we need a very strict discipline, and that's why we need professional investigators who, if they don't respect the communication, the reporting, the lines, the procedures, we fire them. We don't continue with them. So we have a manual of procedure, very strict. It's 100 page, explaining all the details, how we make investigation, how we organize arrest with authorities, how we support authorities, forces of order. So that's how we really limitate the risk. Till now, we had no real issue, but we still have to be very cautious. So we have someone, our monitoring and evaluation officer, he just follow the communication on WhatsApp permanently, and he make an analysis every day to check that our investigator, they communicate well, they respect the procedures, and if they don't, we don't keep them. Of course, there was, yeah, I think the most important is the communication, and if we see that there is a risk, of course we don't make some field missions, or some investigators who had already enough results, a lot of results in the province, they will not work in this province of the country. Or if they are after 2-3 years, probably we have to change investigators, or we have to bring investigators from other countries also. So yeah, it's a very important concern for us, of course.
I'm glad everyone's taking steps to stay safe. That's important. Um, IEF is conservation partners and friends with the people at Global Conservation. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with them and what kind of support they give you?
IEF.
Yeah, Global Conservation.
Global conservation, okay. But global conservation, it's just a new partner, I would say. So global conservation, they work mainly in Cameroon. So, but not very far from Gabon. They work near the border, and we are not funded by a European Union project, Cameroon and Congo. So it is on 2 countries with an NGO called Nature Plus. I mentioned them because I worked for them at the beginning. And so we start a collaboration with Global Conservation Justice. We would like to help them to follow similar procedures on security, on investigation. So they would like maybe to develop this aspect. They also fund some of our activities, but it's just the beginning. And so it's more, till now, it's more exchange of information. We are discussing how we could help each other. And it's very important because the ivory from Gabon, it goes to Cameroon, and Global Conservation is active in Cameroon. So I think there was possible activities we could do together on investigation, exchange of information, staff also. We could train some of their staff. We could also take their experience on other aspects. So it's just starting, but I think there was opportunities to develop this partnership.
Excellent. And I think everyone here probably knows, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about the forest elephants specifically, since that's the population that is in Gabon, and how maybe the poaching is affecting that population and their conservation status.
Yeah, till recently, it was supposed to be a subspecies. So forest and savanna elephants were supposed to be the same species, but 2 different subspecies. And I think about 10 years ago, with the DNA analysis, and it has been concluded that it's really 2 different species, the forest and the savanna elephants. So it means that it changed a lot of things, because it means that the forest elephant population was more in danger than we think, because it's a specific species. And except in Gabon, the population of forest elephants, where we are still really declining. As I said, in Cameroon, there was almost no more elephants, forest elephants. In CRA, in DRC, in Congo, it's North Congo, there are still a lot, but it's decreasing. So in Equatorial Guinea, so it means there was a big decline in the population of forest elephants, especially more than savanna elephants. So that's why Gabon is even more important, because it's the last important refuge for the forest elephants. So that's why the IUCN and other organizations consider that the forest elephants is more in danger, especially since we know it's two different species. It means if the forest elephant disappear, it's a species that disappear. Before, it was supposed to be the same species. So maybe people consider, okay, if elephants disappear, there are still the elephants, I don't know, in Botswana, but no, it's not the same species. For me, honestly, it doesn't change much, even if any population, if it's same species or not same species, it should be protected. But it makes a difference for scientists and for, yeah. But it's true that there was a lot of article on forest elephant that it's really declining. But with the new wildlife survey on elephants, especially in Gabon, the number of elephants, 95,000 elephants. It was much more than what we expected. So Gabonese authorities and NGO are supposed to make a new survey, national survey, probably this year or next year. It takes time, of course. And so we will see if it's really 95,000 or less. The problem with the survey is that according to the method you use, you have more or less. The team also, the team is maybe more accurate, or the data is more sure or not. The time of the year you do the survey, and also it's quite difficult, especially for forest elephants, to know how many there are.
Very true. What kind of surveying methods are they using? Do you know?
But yeah, in the past, all the NGO, they use the line transect survey. So they make a line transect in the middle of the forest, and they count the trucks left and right. And they check the probability to see that there was an analysis of the data with the probability to see the dung, the feces. Yeah. And but then you have to know also how many dung an elephant make every day, and how fast it disappears. So there are a lot of calculation, and it can change according to what they eat, according to the season, according to many things. And so it was probably not that accurate, but now they use a DNA analysis method. So they take the dung, they take the DNA of a lot of elephants, and they compare, they see if it's the same elephant that is counted again and again, and so there was a technique, we call it in French the capture. So there are calculations to know if you see that it's always different elephants, you can imagine that there are a lot. If it's always the same, you see it's only one. Of course, it's between the two, and there was calculation thanks to this. So the DNA analysis is very useful for that kind of survey. On investigation in tribunal and all, the DNA analysis, it's much less interesting. But to make wildlife survey, yes, it's very easier and more accurate. And that's how they finally consider there are 95,000 elephants. If they use the previous method, it was 50,000 elephants. So it makes a big difference, actually.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. Well, we are coming up on time, so I think we have one more question. Someone's asking, what other species are poached, and is it elephants that are the most poached species, or are there other species that are more targeted?
So in Gabon, villagers. They work mainly from hunting, fishing. They make some agriculture, but it's very limited. And so yes, they hunt all the species. Some species for cultural reason are not eaten in some villages, or in other villages it's another, or clans. So there are some protection, traditional protection, but not that much. And so the people, they hunt and they eat everything: the elephants, the gorillas, the chimpanzee. Some tribes don't eat chimpanzee and gorillas. Other tribes do, but globally there was hunting of everything, especially for the bush meat. So it's quite global in Gabon, but there are only, as I say, there are 2 million people in Gabon, but most of them, they live in cities, in the 3-4 main cities. If you take the 2 main cities, it's more than half of the population. So inside of the country, there are not many people. One village it's 100 people, sometimes less. So the impact is not that much if it's just for the villages to eat meat. And they don't have much choice because they don't make agriculture, they don't make ranching, which is good in a way because they would have to cut the forest much more. So I would say that all the species are hunted or poached. But elephants, it's mainly for ivory. So that's why there was a bigger pressure on elephants. The poaching was higher because of the price of ivory, and now also because of the human-elephant conflict. We had some trafficking on leopard skins, but in Gabon, fortunately, we don't have much trafficking on live animals. There are much more trafficking of wild animals in Cameroon or in West Africa countries. But in Gabon, it's really on elephants, leopard skins a little. The pangolin scales, not much. Also in Gabon, the parrots, not much. So it's mainly for international trafficking, it's ivory. And other species are more protected if we consider the trafficking. Actually, they are killed, but only for bushmeat consumption locally.
Well, that's interesting, and I think a good place to end this. I think all wildlife needs our help, but it's great that we're focused on elephants because there is a great need there. I'm going to turn it over to Julie real quick.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Luc, for this wonderful presentation. I'd like to invite everybody to turn your cameras on, and let's give him a very big round of applause for this great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.